Hey, welcome back to the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge, and today we have Red Tails. This is a 2012 Lucasfilm movie. Yeah. Not Star Wars, not Indiana Jones. You'd think maybe Indiana Jones would show up in the background somewhere. Nope, not at all. This is 2 hours and 6 minutes about the Tuskegee Airmen, about the real-life, all African-American pilot squad. What's the term I should be using? At Tuskegee, these guys trained and learned to be some amazing pilots, and this is their story. It takes place during World War II. We're fighting against the Nazis, fascism, hate, evil, everything else. But at the same time, there's segregation within the military on our side, and these guys are pretty much kept secret or kept separate from all the white soldiers and airmen and Navy and everything else. Not a good look, but hey, that's the way things were back then. In fact, it makes it very clear. The racism part of it isn't the entire story, because these guys, it's really about the men that were in this. I imagine that this is each of their real stories, but very whittled down, because each of them have a very specific type of story. So I don't know if they made up characters, because there was a lot of men in the Tuskegee Air program. Many of them were awarded medals at a time when nobody thought they could fly or fight. Or in the first few seconds of this film, text appears on the screen that says, hey, black men are pretty much inferior, and they are cowards, and they cannot be expected to fight in a war. Yeah. And that's not from the Nazis, that's from the U.S. Army Assessment Team, Army Assessment in 1925, a few decades before this takes place. 1944-ish, towards the end of the war. But we only got into it in 1942, something like that. The racism is a pretty big part of this, and you get to see how they react, or how others react to them, especially when they show up and there's meant to guard a bombing run into Germany, or into contested lands. It goes further and further into Berlin. I'm not an expert in World War II. It's okay. If I'm wrong, please correct me in the comments. I'm okay with that. I don't know everything, but I try to retain what I know, and half the stuff might have been learned on Disney Plus through the National Geographic documentaries. I don't know. But I do find that kind of stuff intriguing, and I've seen documentaries about these guys, and if you want to find the real factual accomplishments of these men, documentaries are the way to go to learn more about that. There might be one or a few on here on Disney Plus. Otherwise, there's plenty everywhere. History Channel, I'm sure, has that. You don't have to just go to Disney Plus. It's okay. It's not the only service with content out there. You can go to YouTube probably, but hopefully from a reliable source. We get to hear about them through documentaries, but this is about the men themselves. I don't really know if this is the exact stories of these actual men, or they were just, these characters were created to represent various men in that time. I don't know. So there is a number of actors that you'll recognize in this. Lightning is played by David Oyelowo, and I know I'm saying that wrong. Right now he's playing Bass Reeves in a new series. Terrence Howard, Cuba Gooding Jr., Andre Arroyo, Neo's in this. So it's a really big cast of names and faces you'll recognize. There's even appearance. I can't forget Michael B. Jordan. Geez, Michael B. Jordan has a a big career ahead of him. Method Man is in this as well. Oh, and even Bryan Cranston, Walt from Breaking Bad, Walter White from Breaking Bad is in this in a very small role. He's not a great guy in this one, but yeah, this film is very much a drama. It's meant to be a historical drama in telling each of these stories. Each of them, the reason why I say I'm not sure if this is the exact stories of specific men or it's just a pastiche of various different men and the struggles they went through as they were fighting for our country, for the world, against fascism. It's we get not a story of just, oh, these were just guys in the past who flew planes. Yay, and here's a bunch of dogfights. It is more than that. It is meant to show that these were men, real men with flaws, and just, they were imperfect. But they did what they did to serve their country. Veterans Day is not too far away. Not too far in our past here. They did, just like every other American serviceman, woman in that era, they wanted to do more. But very often the Army, the higher-ups were saying, well, we don't want to necessarily have black men in this situation. It might look bad. Like, if it goes bad, especially, then they'll go, oh. Well, actually, no, I don't think they really cared whether... I almost think they would be hopeful that black men could be blamed for any failures they may have had. But if they have successes, then they can't say it's just all the white guys, the heroes, not those guys. Racism is complicated for you guys, I imagine. For not you guys, for if you're a racist watching this, yeah, I imagine your racism is very complicated, and it takes up a lot of your brain power. But being a good, kind, decent person who sees people as equals, I would think it's easier. I would think it's a much better life to live. Yeah, I know that it is. So, hating is indiscriminately. I guess it is easy. Hating indiscriminately is easy. But finding justification for all that hate, it's gotta be hard. Anyway, this is not as good of a movie as it should have been. Yes, this is Lucasfilm. This is pretty much a George Lucas thing, even though he's not directed it, he's not written. I don't think he wrote it. He didn't write it. No, it's his studio, but I'm pretty sure it's like there's a project of his that he wanted to have at Lucasfilm. There's plenty of other movies out there that have told this type of story about the Tuskegee Airmen, but in this case, they tell these different stories. One guy's an alcoholic. One guy falls in love with a local Italian girl. Another guy is sort of a death wish, and he's just disobeying orders and just going off. And there's just other guys, gets injured, and should he be allowed to fly again? And there's so many different things that goes on. I kind of wish that this had been a series. But it was in a time when we didn't really have like streaming shows, and could it have ended up on FX or something like that? Sure, it could have showed up on FX. Would it have lasted a season? I think it would only needed a season to tell a lot of this stuff. But it's at a time before the golden age of television that everything kind of had to be a movie if it was prestige. And the things that bring this story down is that it kind of just pushes through everybody's storyline here and there, and it doesn't really give it the time or the weight for these great actors to really do it justice. There's a lot of really trite dialogue in this, some really and the effects. I realize you can't really, when you have an effects system budget and you have an effects crew that is at ILM. It's Industrial Light and Magic. You kind of at your beck and call. You kind of imagine that you're going to be able to do better digitally than, say, getting a bunch of airplanes to fly around for certain shots. But that's not the case. The dogfights are amazing. They look great. There's a few bits of explosions and stuff that don't look great. But when they crash, it looks really fake. And when there's scenes that are just take place on the ground, whenever you see a wide shot, a very wide shot, it's usually, if it's high above the characters, like a bunch of guys just standing near each other amongst a bunch of different planes on the tarmac, 1000% fake. It's them on a green screen in a studio. And it looks like it. There's a shot with Lightning and his girlfriend Sophia walking through a little plaza in Italy, and wherever they, in that area in Italy, and it's 100% obviously fake, obviously fake, and it really takes me out of the film. I want to like this movie more, but there's so many little shortcuts that are taken in the digital era of Lucas that it just really ruins it. Again, the dogfights, the characters, while good, and the struggles they go up against, real, all very real. They're treated as real human beings, and that's great. But and there's even a line that, yes, you're gonna wonder if there's a Star Wars reference. Yes, well, honestly, this entire film is a Star Wars. Okay, let's just say the dogfights in Star Wars, TIE fighters and X-Wings, all based on World War II battle footage. In fact, when Lucas showed the film to his buddies before the effects were done, Coppola and Spielberg and everybody else, he didn't even have the spaceship shots put together yet. And so he inserted dogfight footage from World War II into the film, where you're like, oh wait, these guys are in space now. They're fighting in black and white and over Europe. Yeah, he did those things because he really liked the way those battles were where those battles looked. And so Star Wars took that on. And now this, when people might look at it and go, oh, this feels very Star Wars-ish. Well, guess what? Yeah, Star Wars kind of borrowed from the originals, and these very much take from the look and feel of old reels from that era. That said, those reels also appear in the film because a lot of times the characters are watching footage. There's cameras mounted to the planes to show what kind of battles or what kind of conflicts they were in and what happened. So they can't just say, oh yeah, we blew up a couple Jerry's and came back, and people are like, okay, I guess we'll trust you that you blew up a couple of planes or a boat or something. Now, they had the cameras, and it showed it, and yeah, I can't imagine how they got such pretty decent footage back in that day. So, but yeah, it's, with this good of a cast, it should have been a better film. Again, if they decide to remake this, or honestly, the Masters of the Air, which is, I think, I don't know if it's an HBO or an Apple thing, I don't know, whatever this other streaming services has it. It's a follow-up to the Band of Brothers and the Pacific, wherever, the Pacific, that series. HBO, I imagine it's HBO, so it'd be a Max thing. Masters of the Air is one that takes on the Air Force. It doesn't exist yet. Air Force, the pilots of that era, and I imagine there might be a chapter in there about the Tuskegee Airmen. Don't know. We'll see. It might be worth watching. But if you want something that's going to give you some melodrama with your plane battles, well, here you go. This is it. Just expect the plane battles to be a little bit cooler than any of the stories. Because their stories are predictable, pretty much. Does the alcoholic guy struggle with alcohol? Does he eventually give it up when something tragic happens? Maybe. maybe. I don't want to ruin anything else because a lot of you probably haven't seen it. And honestly, it came out in 2012 and it's a Lucasfilm movie. I don't think anything from Lucasfilm crashed that hard since like Howard the Duck. Like normally anything coming out of there is going to be Indiana Jones or a Star Wars. But man, I saw it. I don't know if I saw it in theaters, but I saw it eventually at some point, somehow. Who knows? Who cares? Who cares? So yeah, I highly recommend, if you like history, if you like aeronautics history and World War II battles, sure, watch it. Otherwise, you're not going to really say, yeah, this is a great movie. So it's probably more realistic than, say, the movie Pearl Harbor. But still. Let's pick tomorrow's episode.
300.
300. Huh? Do not have to scroll far. All right. We're back to documentaries. I'm not sure if this is a series or a one-off, but this is called Savage Kingdom. All right. So, I imagine it has to do with nature, maybe? Savage Kingdom is what we're watching next on the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge. I'll see you back here tomorrow with that.